From the NewsTalkSTL studios in St. Louis, it's the Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter. On tonight's episode, Saving Our Kids with Cari Bartholomew, Lieutenant Governor candidate Dave Wasinger, and the Right Mind studio band, Mitch Murphy and the Murphy Tones. Now putting the fun in your dysfunctional world, here's your host, Todd Schowalter.
Do you want me to go out in my car and get a pillow? Because I do have a pillow out in the car. I understand that you have been up since 3 a.m., and that just sounds brutal, okay? So you've actually been up and actually working, doing your thing, doing your Joey thing since 3 o'clock in the morning? That just sounds horrible.
This show will suffer. Because Mike Ferguson in the morning, I didn't know it actually started in the morning. I thought that was just a name.
Yeah, right.
But apparently that thing starts at 5:30, and they had a live broadcast today at some coffee place out in the middle of nowhere, O'Fallon, and I had to get up at 3 a.m. just to make it there on time to plug in a microphone.
Why didn't you just say you didn't want to?
Well, I'm the only one that knows how to plug in the microphone. It's real tricky. There's three little plugs on it instead of just the one plug. And then Mike, he's got the bad eye. He got hit in the face with a baseball once. He doesn't know how to do depth perception or anything.
That's right. Yeah, because he's a catcher, too. He's a catcher with one eye. That reminds me, it's almost like a joke. You hear the one about the one-eyed baseball catcher?
Tell me.
Well, his name's Mike Ferguson. That's the joke.
Man, he could have played on the St. Louis Browns, classic team that hired a midget.
I was asked that the other day, why do you keep talking about midgets? Because I like midgets. Some people like puppies. I like midgets. Okay, I'll just leave it at that.
They make me smile.
They make me smile. They make me giggle. I think when I hear giggles, I think of midgets. So if you do need that pillow, though, I do have it in the back seat because sometimes I just, I get a little tired when, even though I wasn't up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if I'm at a red light or something like that and it's too long, I'll just get the pillow out and I'll, put my head on it and take a nap. So I'll lend that to you if you need it. In the meantime, though, guess what? You're weird. I'm weird. You're asleep.
I'm back.
Hang on a second.
I'm back.
Here we go.
Thank you.
You're all good. You're weird. I'm weird. That is the new word. We're weird. We've gone from, I've been called, okay, get this, in the span of, 2-3 weeks, a fascist, a racist, you name it. And now the new, whoever's coming up with these clever new little nugget words, the new word for us now, the big insult, which I take as a compliment, is weird. Oh, you're weird. To me, that is that's the biggest compliment you could give me. I don't want to be normal. I'm proud to be weird.
It's like Kamala took our word. That was our word.
I know.
We said, hey, weirdo, what's up, weirdo? What's up, my weirdo?
Yeah.
And now she took it and she's using it as an insult, and I don't like that one bit.
Speaking of that, I had blood all over my ear this morning. My wife, okay, get this. This is not a made-up story. We're going to call her right now. We got to call her and just have her verify this, because should we do it?
She's never wanted to be on the show, and I'm sure she doesn't want to start now.
On the show. And so I'm sitting there. It was like Wordle time. This is how we make sure that our brains are functioning. We'll have our coffee and do our Wordle, which, by the way, was pretty easy today. Okay, it wasn't a big deal. I won't give it away, even though we tape on a different day that this airs, and this has nothing to do with the topic at hand. But she says, "Oh my gosh, what happened to your ear?" Just like that. Just like that. Now, what are you thinking if you're just about to solve the Wordle and somebody distracts you with, "Oh my gosh, Joey, what happened to your ear?" What would you think?
Well, it's very close to what happened to Mr. Trump, so it seems like you'd have a sniper in the kitchen.
That is what I said. It was actually my right ear. I have no idea. Now, Benny the dog, he is spending the night with us, the last 2 nights. So I don't know if he gnawed on my ear or what. But I get up and go to the bathroom and look at your head. And so I did. And so I go into the bathroom. I look at my head in the mirror, okay, and there's blood all over my right ear. Why she waited until after the Wordle to tell me this? She could have told me that as soon as I sat down. But you know what I said to her? I think I've been shot like the president.
Mm-hmm. Do you know your wife was a teacher in a previous life?
She kind of still is. She babysits these 2-year-olds, and that's why she's.
Does she go up to the 2-year-old and just say, "You crapped your pants. Go take care of that in the bathroom, you sick little creep"?
She does do that, and you know what? She traumatizes.
No sympathy.
Not at all. Because yesterday, for a matter, I hope she's listening to this episode because she has these prescription sunglasses. These prescription sunglasses, okay, that she lost at the babysitting joint where they wipe these 2-year-olds' butts. turns out one of these little cretins stole the things. And so she gets almost like a ransom photo from somebody of this little, like, the kid with her prescription sunglasses on. I said, did he come with a ransom note or something? Or are they making you pay for it to get it back? Like, in, who knows what? Well, those dots that you were talking about. You know what she did? She goes back up to the place where she's taking care of these 2-year-olds to get them. But the kid's gone, of course, because this happened earlier in the day. What a stupid story this is.
It was caked in E. coli, I guarantee you. If you put glasses in a poop factory and then put them on your face, that's Pink Eye City.
Yeah, speaking of that, did you know who this Rachel Scott is on ABC?
No one knows who she is.
No, nobody does. But, here's the deal. Okay, I mean, I don't
Nasty woman, though.
Just absolutely the nastiest. She was having this interview with Donald Trump. I don't know what day it was, day before yesterday. It could have been tomorrow. I have no idea. But she's just being really rude to him. And so he calls her out on it. And all they do, like, they follow up about all his responses to her being rude, but they don't point out that she was rude to him the entire time. That it would be just like if I started screaming like a lunatic, which sometimes I do, you know that. And you just posted that I'm screaming like a lunatic, but you left out the whole part about you breaking my kneecaps. I mean, so they just have him reacting, but they don't show why he actually, in the follow-up, they don't explain why he's actually reacting the way that he did. That's just not good journalism.
Yeah, she just came right out the gate flying in with some hot heat. It seemed like she was going to make a name for herself, but now I don't know if anyone would really consider her a real journalist after this.
No, it was just more of a, what do you call it? She ambushed the poor guy, and she tried to get a reaction out of him. I didn't think that was very I thought that was downright rude.
I bet her cheeks were so tight while she was asking that.
Which ones?
I bet she was so nervous trying to get this out. Like, okay, if I stick it to Donald Trump right now, I'm going to be hailed as a hero. But then if you listen, the audience actually laughed at Trump's response.
I know. And so it was a total backfire. And all she didn't do was call him weird, because that would have really been the topper on the cake. What are we going to do about this whole Kamala Harris thing? Are you worried about this? I think people that don't really, follow the world or really have any sense of what, anything is really about, I think they're just buying into these little sound bites. And it's starting to concern me that people just think, oh, this would be really cool to have her, be the president. But I think it would probably cause, Armageddon or something like that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I've never seen Armageddon. I mean, I hear it'll be fun.
Good. I mean, they had that Aerosmith movie, an Aerosmith song.
Yeah. Don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, if she's elected president, God help us all, that's going to be like the theme song. That's that Aerosmith Armageddon song.
They always say in that movie Armageddon, when they're talking about it, they wanted to take the oil rig people and turn them into astronauts. But then they say, well, why didn't you just make an astronaut into an oil rig man? I mean, they're the smartest people in the world. You had to get dummy Ben Affleck to fly to space. I don't think that was the right way to go about that.
I think he'd want to fly to space now, because isn't he married to that J-Lo thing or person?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's talk about nasty. Now, have you ever just looked at somebody and thought, I bet she's not a very nice person, because she doesn't seem like she's a very nice person.
No one. I have never felt that way about any woman except Cori Bush.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I bet you if Ben Affleck had been married to Cori Bush, he never would have come back from that Armageddon meteorite. He wouldn't have, because they would have said, you got to come back. You got to come back. I'm not coming back, man, because I got to go back to Cori. And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't come back. She's really kind of gone off the rails, too, because she's up, it'll be this Tuesday. She's going up against Wesley Bell, correct? Mm-hmm. And apparently that's going to be a very heated election. But from what I understand, Cori didn't really do anything except stuff for herself. I mean, don't you think that's kind of like a detriment to anybody in public service?
Well, she made sure to pay her husband for security, which it seems like, why isn't he just taking care of you for free? You got to pay a guy $20,000 a month to take a bullet for you. If I was married to a lovely lady like your wife, I'd take a bullet for her anytime.
Well, she's usually the one shooting the bullets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to kind of take one for me, which you wouldn't do, and then, well, that's a whole other story. But this Cori Bush, I mean, it's kind of, she's another one of these politicians that I think is making a lot of money, and she's giving her husband, as you just mentioned, that money, and God knows where the other money is going. But apparently she hasn't done anything for the actual community, and then she's all up in arms on, why wouldn't they support me?
She's too busy yelling at people at Congress or something. Oh, man, if you ever listen to the way she talks, it's like she's constantly crying while out of breath because she's trying to get like her yelling out as quick as possible, and then she runs out of breath halfway through her words. She is a very annoying person to listen to. I would vote her out just so I don't have to hear her. You ever vote like that? Where it's just like, I don't want to have a coffee with that person. Get him out.
Well, I do that just in general. I mean, like the judges. I mean, you know how when you vote for the judges on Tuesday.
That guy gave me a ticket. Get him out.
Well, it's like I picked like he seems like he's got a friendly name. You know, it's just, and I don't, what do you know about the judges unless they're one, like you just said, somebody that threw you in the can. I mean, not the can like the bathroom, but like the cell clink, you know, that type of thing. I mean, I don't know anything about these judges. Why do they make us vote on judges?
I at least want to see what they're wearing underneath the robe. If you could show me the attire, at least a little leg or something, I'd vote on that.
Well, yeah.
Not just, he's got a cool name. You gotta take it deeper than that. You know, I don't know if you consider Ruth Bader Ginsburg someone you'd agree with, but
hot.
She had the best little collars.
Oh, she did, yeah. And she also had beautiful ankles. She made like her ankles were so much hotter than Hillary Clinton's. You know, Hillary Clinton's legs just kind of like morph into her shoe. Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
cankles on that courtroom.
No cankles on that Supreme Court justice, that's for sure. Well, Joe's speaking of that. I mean, Joe's he didn't get his way with this whole Trump thing, so now he just wants to change the whole Supreme Court. That's the other thing going on. He wants to put term limits on him, and he wants to be able to file different complaints. It seems like Joe doesn't seem to remember that he kind of just bypassed the whole Supreme Court with all these, student loan handouts that he's given out. Because they said, Joe, you can't do that, and he just went ahead and did it anyway. So now the Supreme Court actually does something that he didn't like, and he couldn't do it anyway. And so now he just wants to get rid of a lot of the stuff that they do.
Now, I'm not going to make a pedophile joke or an underage joke right here, but it seemed like Joe Biden had a problem with them serving longer than 18 years. I guess once they reach 18 years, he's just not interested anymore.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, because after 18, I mean, then they're basically adults, aren't they? And Joe doesn't like adults. He likes children.
I guess they are serving a lifetime, at least Joe Biden's lifetime. No way he's making it another 18 years if this passes.
What's he talking about? I mean, look, what is he, like 8,000 years old? He's been in there forever. They finally had to kick him out with their coup that they did, and he's crabbing about these Supreme Court justices being in there too long. He's been in there, I think, since the Civil War, Joe, that is, and he's upset about this.
The hardtack is too hard. We need better food for our soldiers. The muskets take too long to refill.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm tired of the whole thing. Who are you voting for next Tuesday? Don't tell me, because we're not going to officially endorse anyone, because some of the people wouldn't come on the show, so I don't know who to endorse. But I mean, do you have any? Are you pretty much all set on who you are going to vote for?
We have a very specific list of people who have unsubscribed from the Right Mind Show newsletter, so we know who we're not voting for.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's harder to decide who not to vote for. I can't tell you. Maybe if someone doesn't remember your name, it's harder to vote for them on a Tuesday.
So you're saying hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
And this is not even. I mean, this is totally hypothetical. But if you were like, say, if you were like to draw cartoons for like one of the candidates, and then you did several of them, and then they just you had a public event in front of a whole bunch of other people, announced that you could not remember that cartoonist's name after he'd done all these cartoons. That may be like a negative with you.
Very negativo, my friend.
Okay, we won't mention any names. Not that ever actually happened. I'm not sure if it. Yeah, well, kind of did. Yeah, and that should be interesting on Tuesday. A lot of crazy stuff is about to go down, I think.
Are you talking about Valentina? You said a lot of crazy stuff going down.
Valentina, yeah. Now she's the one that what's she like? Secretary of State. She has been repeatedly. She's the one. She's like a feisty little woman that she's running for Secretary of State, and she like torches things with a flamethrower. And I thought she's the perfect candidate to be on the Right Mind Show. And I offered, and I talked. We went back and forth, and finally she said, "Fine, I'll come on at 3:00." I go, "We don't tape at 3:00," and that's the last I heard of her. So I don't know what to do. I think
she must be busy influencing the rest of the day.
I guess so.
Are we influencers? How many followers do we have?
We have somebody in Germany. I know that.
That's our only fan.
Yeah, we
have a second only fan now. All right, I love it.
We have two. Yeah, something like that. Well, my wife, she listens most of the time. I don't know.
Does she listen to have something to yell at you about later? Sometimes she's having a relaxing day and she says, I'm going to turn on Todd's podcast to see what he said about me.
Yeah, well, that's what some people do. They don't even listen to the live show. They'll listen to the podcast so they can skip through a whole bunch of stuff and say, well, I don't listen to you and Joey's part. I just skip to whoever the guests are. So they miss all the parts where I'm actually talking about them. So they miss out. But she always wants to make sure that I'm not mentioning her, because she always says, don't bring me up on the air. And so she wants to make sure that I didn't, even though that I do.
I think there are services where you can feed the podcast into a transcription service, AI transcription service, and then it'll spit it out. And now she can just, Control F, wife, Control F. We don't want to say her name. Mrs. Schowalter.
Yeah.
So she could actually just save some time instead of listening on double speed. Just look up wife and see if it was mentioned in the transcription of each show.
That's a beautiful idea. Maybe I'll do that for myself, and that way I won't even have to talk anymore.
Yeah, you could print off the exact pages, highlight it, and here you go, honey. This is what I said about you this week.
And Mitch back there, he showed up in our picture last week, and he's back to his normal self, just wearing his underpants. Good to see you again, Mitch. He may put a few numbers out for us, so it should be a good show. We hope so. But in the meantime, I'm Todd Schowalter, along with my buddy Joey B. This is The Right Mind Show. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter, Saving Our Children with Cari Bartholomew. Welcome back to The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter on NewsTalkSTL. And now a man who was disqualified from the equestrian event at the Summer Olympics because all he brought was his pommel horse, Todd Schowalter.
And we're back. I'm Todd Schowalter, along with my buddy Joey V. And on the line now is one of our favorite guests from Utah, Cari Bartholomew, out to save our children and the world as we know it. How's it going, Cari? What's new in your world?
It's going pretty good. I should be recuperating from losing an election, but, life goes on, so you just keep fighting.
What are you talking about? What happened?
Well, unfortunately, we had a lot of people who infiltrated, people who would say in Joe Biden, I found my party, but who voted in the Republican primary and got a lot of other people to do the same. So even in our red state.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. The way it goes.
What do you are you kind of, I'm not kind of. Speaking of this whole upcoming election and everything that's going on in the world right now, what are your thoughts on that? It has me a little nervous. How about you?
Yeah, so I think we've got about 97 days to save our country.
I agree.
96 now, I think?
Yeah.
We've got 96 days to wake people up, and I'm really hoping that if they understand what queer theory really is, they will wake up.
Well, and that's what we're going to talk about, because you mentioned yesterday when I wanted to make sure that you were going to be on, you said, well, I want to talk about queer theory, and that alone, just the name alone kind of is intriguing. Tell us, what's that all about?
So queer theory, how it's presented, is once again one of those Trojan horses, just like ethnic studies, right? The goal of queer theory, or what we think it is to be empathetic. We just want our children to not hate people. Sounds good to most of us. Right? Mm-hmm. But the goal is not empathy, but rather embodiment. And so yesterday, I've been making videos all week on Instagram, and yesterday I was reading about Judith Butler, one of the writers for queer theory, and she talked about how most drag queen story artists, so the people who come in and read the books to kids, most of them actually resent our children first off. Mm-hmm. They resent them because they represent reproductive futurity, i.e., they're children, so they've recently come into this world and they want to be mommies and daddies. But their goal is to be super nice to them, to put what's called glitter in the carpet, so to put ideas into their heads that they can never get out of their heads as early as possible, so that those children will not want to be mommies and daddies.
Yeah. Well, and again, I keep coming back to like the whole issue of that. Who thinks this is a good idea? I'm not ancient, but I'm not young either. But when I was in school, there is no way in hell this would have ever happened. So when did all of a sudden we decide that, this is a great idea? We're going to have drag queens
let's
come.
Go back.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's go back to critical resentment theory.
Okay.
These people who hate the West people who hate the West but yet have greatly benefited. Take, for example, the puppet master in the White House.
Right, yeah.
You know, the man who was the president 2 rounds ago.
Sure.
Right? So take somebody like him, okay? He's greatly profited off the West. He's extremely filthy rich. But his own wife, Michelle, will say Americans need to get used to having a smaller piece of the pie so more people can have a piece of the pie.
Right.
Meanwhile, they've got 5 houses.
Yeah,
mansion.
Yeah, people don't. And why can't people see that? And again, you have this whole thing with the elites, so to speak. Well, not so to speak. That's exactly what they are.
Class.
Right, and they want to. They project all this, and they have these grandiose statements that are just absolutely ludicrous. When none of this stuff is going to affect them, so it's basically
divided we fall.
Exactly, divided we fall. Exactly right, because that's what. As long as you can divide people, you can control them. Now is that, and now they're starting it with our children. I mean,
yes,
I just don't understand.
And they teach your children. So here's just another example. So there's an excellent book that I highly recommend. It's by Logan Lansing, and it's called The Queering of the American Child. Mm-hmm. James Lindsay also writes. I think he writes the foreword. But anyways, this book is great because it's just resource after resource after resource. In all the clip notes, all of the notes are just the footnotes are directly from their words. But when they're talking about it, they say that our children, educators, are being taught to see our children as being deprived by growing up in traditional valued homes. And so what their job is to throw them in an imaginary canoe, put them in the roughest waters. This is to intentionally traumatize them. So we intentionally traumatize our children. And then after we have intentionally traumatized them, their educator is on the shores to bring them back and to hold them in their arms and to bring them into safety, or what's called a new way of knowing. So it's sick.
Well, and again, it goes back. I mean, you look at the fundamentals of Marxist communism. I mean, they're destroying the family unit. I mean, it's these, especially educators. You think you're educated. You think you know. You're knowledgeable about things. How come they can't see that unless this is what maybe they want this?
Especially our younger people. Well, they're presented as. I mean, think about it. In 2020, we had a huge campaign of trust teachers. Teachers are the experts. Okay?
Right.
And I don't think every teacher jumped on that wagon, but I think that when you hear something over and over and over again, at some point it becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. So there are teachers who, when parents say, hey, I have a question about that, a teacher will respond and say, you need to trust me, I'm the expert. Mm-hmm. Now, quite frankly, no one is the expert in raising their own children except for good parents. And I emphasize good because we know that there are crappy parents out there too. But the majority of parents love their children and want what's best for them.
Right.
And no amount of higher ed that teaches you that you're the expert, that teaches you, quite frankly, people are more bigoted than I've ever seen in my life. And again, I'm a Black woman, mm-hmm. but people are more bigoted than I've ever seen in my life because of what the experts have told them they must believe and what they must espouse. So we just have people constantly take the Olympics, right? Just recently with what they did there.
With the boxers.
Regardless of,
yeah. Well,
the boxers, yeah.
I mean, that's as of today. We're taping on a Thursday. Yeah. I mean, we have a female boxing where she was basically knocked out by an opponent that had male chromosomes, and this what. Again, there's this whole narrative that's being, projected and put out that if we don't go along with this, they're going to call us names. Okay, so you're transphobic, you're this. I don't care. You can call now we were joking earlier. The new one is weird. I'm proud to be weird. I mean, call me weird all you want. Yeah, it's better than being normal. But I mean, go ahead.
Let me break that down for you, though. Okay, because they say they want to teach our children to reject anything that is quote-unquote cis heteronormative. They are supposed to reject the normal, but now their word is weird.
Right.
You have to understand it's nothing if not constant projection. If they are not projecting they're not telling you the truth. I mean, if they're not projecting, they're not speaking.
Well,
Hillary Clinton said, we now know how Nazis are made. Oh yeah, we do, by your little rainbow guard.
Right. Yeah.
That's how they're made, not by our kids learning to, keep their head down, do a good job at work, be the hardest working person in the room.
No, and
that is not creating Nazis.
No, and it's projection. It's all projection, and you can see.
Yeah.
But you have a huge, just population of people though that insist on having their head in the sand when this is total projection. You can tell what the left is doing by what they accuse the right of doing. I mean, so they'll come out and accuse the right of something when that's exactly what the left is doing. I mean, this whole weird thing, I think it's just hilarious. I just recently did a cartoon about it. They're calling us weird. Well, of course we're weird. Because normal is weird to these freaks. Yes. I mean, so if you're a total nut job and somebody's normal, that's weird to them. So of course it is. So, and if that's the case, I want to be weird. The problem is that, even beyond that, is you've got this whole this population of people that are so afraid of being called a name by a nut.
Well, they've also been conditioned.
Yeah.
They've also been conditioned. Look at that thing that happened on the news where they all picked up the word weird, right? Every single one of them was using that in their conversation. And if you are too far gone, you don't see it.
Yeah. No.
You just start saying it. And all of a sudden, a word that you would never have used because it would have been a bullying word is now totally acceptable. And we've been conditioned to that. So I think one thing about the weird that they stepped a little bit too far is there was a Marine who I believe was in an accident and had his face completely mutilated, and they called him weird for talking to J.D. Vance. And it's like, so at what point does your bullying actually touch you? Oh, it doesn't, because we live in a time of repressive tolerance where anything that you do is completely clear and anything that we do is completely wrong. That's what we're living. We're living through domestic violence.
Yeah.
Complete, that's what it is every single day to wake up and go, how do you fight? Like, some people will say, well, when a woman gets beat, why doesn't she just leave? Well, now we know. We're not leaving. We're not standing up and saying, no more, stop it. At least sadly, I'm afraid the amount of people who are either, I think they're going to vote for their own demise in November. One last thing, glitter in the carpet, okay?
Yeah, I like that.
So
I don't, but I do.
The short amount of time that people watched, and I didn't watch the Olympics. I was actually at a scout camp.
You're lucky.
But I could tell you about that too, but I'm not going to. But the short amount of the time that people watch those Olympics, the image is stuck in their head. You can probably close your eyes right now and still imagine what happened.
Oh,
so now imagine what's happening in the classroom with a generative conversation. So you've got kids in those classrooms for 8 hours a day. Take maybe their lunch, right? And you have things in the classroom that are very subtle, but are telling them a message. Whether that message is the school is now your family, whether the message is, we are a quote unquote safe and welcoming school, which most parents would go, what's wrong with that? Safe and welcoming is coded for LGBTQ affirming school. And so it's like, if your kid's in that, and that's what it means to have that glitter in the carpet, it gets stuck in their brain so much that nothing will ever be able to get it out. And that is a direct quote from Drag Queen Story Hour and their goals.
It's disgusting is what it is. And again, going back with the whole educational standpoint, I mean, I know a lot of educators and that unfortunately are that on the far left bent, especially reading their stuff on social media. And, they say, well, this doesn't affect what we do in the classroom. And I say a giant BS. I mean, I think if you don't think, when you read and look at some of the things that these educators are posting and saying that are just so illogical and insane, if you don't think some of that leaks out into the classroom, I'll sell you a bridge. You're pretty naive. So, I mean...
they're taught to be activists.
What's that?
So, they're taught to be activists. So I said I wouldn't tell you about the scout thing, but it's scouts the leaders are still really solid people, but these kids that they're bringing in, they're intentionally doing things like boys painting their nails.
Yeah.
When they're working with our boys, maybe our boys are rappelling off of a cliff, and they're telling the boys, they're talking to them while they're showing them their nails the whole time.
Yeah.
Like those kind of things are being done intentional because, TikTok told them to, or maybe they learned it in their GSA club. But all of that is queer theory. And queer theory is like everything else. It's only about dismantling our country. It's about dismantling the West. And nobody ever asks what for, what is next. And nobody looks at the people who are pushing this, the Zuckerbergs and et cetera, who happen to be in heterosexual marriages with straight kids who don't go to public school.
Right. No, they love it. They're the elites. They're the elites. They're up there, and they can just look down from their ivory tower and watch everybody, kill each other and fight, and because they're the ones that are still going to rise at the end. And so they're going to be the elites, and then you're going to have all the fringe at the bottom that are going to be working for them and doing all their chores and things. They want that. They want that. I mean, it's like a globalistic society where basically you have the elites and you have all the scum of the earth below, and the middle class, everything else, they want gone. They want that gone, and no, trust me, they love it. You have your George Clooney's, you got all these people up there that they're not going to be affected by any of this. They're just going to watch us fight and kill ourselves, and we got to stop it. We got to stop it now, otherwise it's going to be too late. So, well, my friend, I tell you what, always get me riled up. So I appreciate it. But I look forward to the next time. And, hey, thank you for being in the good fight, as I always say. You're the best.
Oh, thank you. So are you. Thank you. Bye.
Take care, Cari. Wow, I tell you, that gets me going, Joey. That gets me going. It's just really, man. Again, you go back to the Olympics, you go back to all the stuff that came out. Again, I've said it before. I don't care what they were doing. I don't care if they were reenacting, as I said before, a battle scene from the Civil War. It's just the way that it was done with it. And the one guy, I don't know if you saw him, he had his scrotum hanging out of his pants. Did you see that? And I'm saying, I mean, what in the hell are we watching at this point? And this is all normal.
We call that the Texas belt buckle, where you have one just hanging over the edge of your pants there.
I call
Put your hands on your hips, and they're like, that's a weird shaped belt buckle you got there, sir.
Was that your saddlebag? Oh, boy.
The thing I'm most worried about with the drag queens reading is that they usually have these very long glued-on eyelashes, and they've also got very long glued-on fingernails, and then they have huge honkers.
Right.
And just reading the book in general seems like it would be difficult. You have a lot of, I can't turn the page, I can't even see the words. I'm worried that whatever they're reading, they're just making it up because they can't see the book that's in front of their face.
That's what I used to do in school. Like, it would be my turn to read, part of the book. And
Harold and the Purple Crayon, and you're like, Harold, I took the day off. You went to the horse track. Just telling stories of what your dad would do. He went out for cigarettes, and then he never came back.
Daddy never came back from those cigarettes. Never did. Well, hey, when we come back, though, we're going to have Dave Wasinger on. He's running for lieutenant governor, and we're going to find out why he's going to change Missouri and what he's going to do about it. In the meantime, I'm Todd Schowalter, along with my good buddy Joey V. You're listening to The Right Mind Show. We'll be right back.
Coming up next on The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter, lieutenant governor candidate Dave Wasinger. Welcome back to The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter on NewsTalkSTL. And now a man who has a gold medal in bronzing, Todd Schowalter.
And we're back on Todd Schowalter, along with my buddy Joey V here on The Right Mind Show. And on the line now is, he's a candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Dave Wasinger. How's it going, Dave? It's getting down to the wire here. This will be Saturday. You've got, about 72 hours? How are we looking?
We feel real good about the race. We have a high energy level throughout the state of Missouri. We're getting support in Cape Girardeau, Springfield, my hometown of Hannibal, St. Louis. So I think we're in good shape on this race. So we look forward to winning this thing and hopefully maybe becoming your next lieutenant governor.
Yeah, I hope so. You've got my vote. I've already said that, and I mean it sincerely. What are some of the first things that you want to accomplish when you get into your role?
Well, the role of lieutenant governor is an important one in the state of Missouri. Obviously, the current governor, you want a constitutional conservative serving in the wings in case something would happen to the governor. But I would like to work hand in glove, assuming we have a conservative governor that's elected, putting across these conservative ideas but I intend on using it as a bully pulpit to expose any corruption and insider deals that are taking place in Jeff City, and I think they have taken place over the last several years. Also, as Lieutenant Governor, you're the advocate or lookout for veterans. And right now we're spending more on illegals than we are on our great veterans, and I intend on changing that. We need to treat our veterans and put them first and foremost and become a leader in the country to support our great veterans and spend more on them than we do on illegals. Another big issue for me is you're in charge of tourism. I don't know about you, but my wife and I are scared to go to a St. Louis Cardinal baseball game for fear of being mugged or shot.
Sure.
And if we're afraid to go down there, what about somebody from Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, you know, folks that have a big bandwidth or Cardinal fans? We'd like to have them come into our great state and spend some money and bolster our economy, but they're scared to come here. So we need to get the crime under control to spur tourism in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of the things that you stand for, it just seems like, you know, common logical sense. I mean, why would you, when you look at who could possibly be opposing you on this, how could anybody oppose anything that's just basically, again, common sense?
Well, again, Jefferson City, Todd, is being run by insiders and special interests.
Right, yeah.
So they are adamantly opposed to a conservative outsider like me running to shake things up. So I'm going to be looking out for Missourians' interest, your interest, and the interest of Missourians rather than the special interest and lobbyists. So that's who's going to oppose me. I'm fighting the establishment. I'm fighting the special interest. I'm fighting the lobbyists. So I intend on going into Jefferson City and shaking things up, and they're not looking forward to that happening.
Yeah, and I don't blame you too, because again, you're right. We've got a primarily, well, as far as as a Republican-run government with the state right now, but you wouldn't think so because a lot of the Republicans that are in office are acting like Democrats. I mean, do you think, in your opinion, honestly, that you've got some people that are true Democrats or just running as Republicans to get elected?
You know, Todd, I'm not sure why you're exactly right. They campaign as conservatives or campaign as Republicans and then govern as Democrats. I don't know if they get caught up in this Jefferson City bubble and just get entrapped by these special interests and lobbyists. So it ends up becoming a uniparty. So the special interest and lobbyists control both the Democrats and Republicans. You have that in Washington, D.C., and I think you also have that in Jefferson City. So again, I think it drives back to these special interests and lobbyists controlling both factions, both the Democrats and Republicans, and you end up having a uniparty that governs like Democrats.
Well, do you think there's anything that can be done just to either put limits or eliminate, lobbying like that altogether? Because again, we talked to some other people on earlier shows where you'll have, people that are getting ready to term out, so to speak, and there's nothing for them to lose, and so you'll have an outside interest that'll say, well, there might be a job for you on the outside if you help me here this last term, and that just seems very dirty, and that's not how it should be if they're there to represent us. Is there anything you think that could be done to either limit or even eliminate all this lobbying altogether?
Yeah, there really needs to be a cooling off period after. What they'll do is, as you correctly, their last term, they'll be again posturing and trying to get a job at one of these lobbying or special interests and begin looking out for these lobbyists and special interests. Now, Missouri did have a 2-year cooling off period. A federal court just dialed that here in the last week or so. I think we're going to have to evaluate that court opinion and maybe reinstitute. I think if they may be agreeable with a 1-year cooling off period. They said 2 years was too long. There were some First Amendment issues, but we really need to put a cooling off period so there's just not a revolving door between these career politicians just turning themselves into lobbyists rather than going back to whatever their vocation was prior to their entering politics.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, I think. I mean, again, you're a representative. What's that mean? You're there to represent the people. I mean, if you're lieutenant governor, you're overseeing these people, so you got to keep things in check. So you've been doing a lot of touring, going around the state. You're getting a lot of support from around. Is there anything that we can do in the meantime between now and Tuesday?
Yeah, absolutely. Just spread the word. Again, we've been endorsed by Missouri Right to Life. I'm the only candidate endorsed by Missouri Right to Life, so please spread that to your friends. I'm the only pro-Trump fiscal conservative running for Missouri Lieutenant Governor, so please spread the word. And early absentee voting, no excuse absentee voting is allowed. So your listeners can go to their polling place today and go vote just as they would on Tuesday. A lot of people don't know that. So there's a 2-week window to vote now in Missouri in which you can show up in person, show your ID, and vote as you would on regular election day. So it's David Wasinger for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. If you want to bring change to Jefferson City, I'm your guy.
Yeah, and you also brought up, especially on your commercial, one last thing about a lot of the illegals coming. I mean, as far as you have a personal story about where your son was almost in a catastrophic, was in an accident, but it could have gone terribly wrong. I don't think people. I mean, you have a lot of people out there that are saying, "Oh, well, that's what America's built on." But they're not coming in here legally, so they're committing a crime, and they're doing a lot more. There's a lot of dangerous activities and other things that comes along with it. You go ahead and tell your story, and then what do you plan to do about all these illegals coming into the state of Missouri?
Well, Todd, you're exactly right. We came within a whisker of losing our son to a guy transporting illegal. He'd been released from federal prison the month before. There's a video in my commercial where he's thrown on the front grill, or his car is thrown on the front grill, and he's riding sideways on the front grill of a tractor trailer. And if you saw the full video, it'd be like Trump is surviving that assassination, and somebody was looking over him. God was looking over him, a guardian angel. But if I could, I had in the commercial, there's a headline in which it says, and I say some folks aren't so lucky. There was a Missouri boy that was killed by an illegal alien, and his name was Travis Wolf, Todd. And do you mind if I tell you and your listeners that his dad reached out to me?
Sure,
and
absolutely.
His name is Tim Wolf, and I did not. He reached out to me on Facebook, and he sent me this following message. And he said, "This is from Tim Wolf, whose son was 11 years old, about ready to celebrate his 12th birthday the next day. Big St. Louis Cardinal fan who died in a head-on collision." So his dad sent me this email or text via Facebook. "In your Adios Amigo ad, the news clip was of our son Travis. Thank you for fighting this fight. An illegal took him away far too soon. I will stand and fight with you to help change policies." Yeah. So I showed that to my wife, and again, tears came to her eyes, and it sends chills down your spine as to how close our family was being turned upside down, and the Wolf's family was turned upside down. They lost an 11-year-old big St. Louis Cardinal fan to these illegals. So we need to get President Trump elected. We need to work hand in glove with President Trump once he's elected to deport these illegals in both Missouri and throughout the country and take our country back.
I couldn't agree more. And again, if people want to come in and do it the legal way, I have friends that are married to. I have a good friend of mine, his wife. She went through. It was a multi-year process to become a citizen of the United States. And I think it's a disservice to those people that actually do it the right way to just have people like the Biden administration is doing to just come in and well, there you are. You're welcome. I mean, now we're going to pay for all your benefits and do all this other stuff. That's a real slap in the face. So yeah, we need more people like you, Dave. And I'm glad you're fighting the good fight. And again, you got my vote, and I hope our listeners will do the same.
Oh, thank you so much, Todd. Thank you for the vote, and please spread the word to your listeners. We're excited on Tuesday. We're hoping we pull out a big win. So only with your help and your listeners' help will we do it. So let's make Missouri great again.
Sounds great. Okay, my friend, we'll talk soon, I hope. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Todd. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you go. That's Dave Wasinger. Yeah, he seems like he was really busy, Joey, so I didn't want to go into him, not wanting to read my newsletter that I think he unsubscribed from, but I'm sure he had a good reason to do it. That's just it. He probably would have said, you know what, if I keep subscribing to Todd's newsletter, I'm going to be spending all my time reading all this great content rather than helping Missouri. So I think, he was thinking of the people rather than my jokes.
It's pretty exciting that if the governor dies, he will be the next governor. Lieutenant governor is just waiting in the wings. I would just sharpen those ribbon-cutting scissors every night a little bit.
Great idea.
And then when the governor goes and then, loses a leg, loses an arm.
Accidentally,
and then, bam, you're the next governor. Our last governor, I think he had a little sex scandal, and that's how we ended up with Governor Parson in Missouri. He was lieutenant governor. So, I mean...
Oh, Parsons, he's not involved in any sex scandals, is he? Because that just wouldn't look right.
He is the most milquetoast, boring governor we have ever had. The
Really?
most crazy scandal that happens with him is everyone says his name wrong. It's Parson, singular. People say Parson.
Parson. Okay. That's one thing. I don't know if I'd want to be governor. Now, if you had to run for something, because there's certain roles I think, that'd be kind of cool. I think it'd be neat to be like a United States senator or something like that. But like a secretary of agriculture or something, I wouldn't want to do that. Is there anything like you'd actually like to do? And more importantly, are there any positions that you wouldn't want to do?
Well, when I grew up, we had
You
the
grew up?
Disney group of cartoons all on after school. It was the Quack Pack, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
So it was, like DuckTales would be on. And what I loved about that is old Uncle Scrooge would be in there swimming in them coins, them shekels. The bouillon, as we call it over here.
Booyah.
And I've always wanted to do that. So if I could be treasurer and they could set up some sort of swimming pool full of dollar bills or something, that would be my dream.
Just to swim in that money. You know how dirty money is, don't you? And I don't mean like in the metaphorical sense.
It's filled with cocaine.
That's right. I mean, do you know if you pick up a penny from like 1940, it's probably also worth something. But do you know how many hands that's always touched? It reminds me of the old bowling ball situation. Do you bowl, my friend?
I don't bowl because of all the cheese sticks that get caught in the holes there. I stick your fingers in, boom, you got marinara up your sleeve.
You have worse than that. People like, get this. I mean, you go bowling, you take the ball, you put your fingers in the hole. You don't know what the last person's, where his fingers have been. Maybe he didn't wash for 20 seconds like our bathroom says you have to in the restroom. And the next thing you know, you're doing that. You stick it in the hole, you touch what he touched, and you're eating a cheese stick, and you're basically eating something out of his bunghole.
When I go to the bowling alley, I see them shining up the shoes and spraying it with the deodorizer.
Right.
I never see them with a power drill and a Q-tip or cotton swab just getting in them holes, just getting after it.
Never.
No one has ever, like you said, cleaned the holes at the bowling alley.
I don't think anybody has ever cleaned my holes.
Is there a position that I should be trying to go for? Something I've noticed with these digital billboards, I was just driving through O'Fallon. Every single 8 seconds, it's another candidate on these digital billboards.
Right.
There's a guy who actually puts your cartoons up on a digital billboard in, Kentucky or something?
Yeah.
You may just be a write-in ballot winner on some election, and you could be nominated to something you didn't even know about.
You joke, my friend, but this has actually happened because I have my VoteTodd.org. Okay, I'm running with Trixie, the party doll, the inflatable party doll, and I've had people send me at prior elections. Look, I'm writing your name in. What is that for? Oh, you're like the alderman of Overland. I don't care anything, and they just write your name in, and so I have actually gotten a lot of votes for a lot of different offices, my friend.
I like that, the write-in guy. Yeah, the write-in mind show guy.
Well, that's what with my signs. Have you seen my signs that say, seriously, can he do any worse? Blake, when he was a little kid, which is still he kind of is, we would go to the polling places, put my signs right now. Sam Page, there was a Todd Vote Todd sign right next to his, and people were like, who the heck is this guy? And then they go to my website and they'd see me running with a party doll.
Can you be arrested for electioneering within 25 feet of a polling place if you're not even on the ballot?
I've tried awfully hard, and it just doesn't work. I mean, these people, you think you're tired. These people, these polling stations, they've been up all night getting ready to do their polling, and, they don't care what you do. They really don't. Did you hear about the one that, tried to give somebody, a sip of water, and they, threw the person out or something because they thought they were influencing votes by helping somebody who was dying of thirst?
Yeah, that was actually the plot of this entire last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm with our friend Larry David. Yeah, he accidentally gave someone a bottle of water and he got arrested, and he actually used it for clout so he could date liberal supermodels. They thought, oh, Larry, my goodness, I can't believe that you stood up for the working man and the rights of the small people. And he's like, I just gave someone a bottle of water, but if there's some perks that come with it, I'll ride this puppy out.
That's a great show, by the way, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Do you know that our friend Larry Hankin, that's been on the show a couple of times, Larry David was the one that told Larry, no, you can't be Seinfeld, because it was between, not Seinfeld, it would be Kramer. Yeah, strike that, you can't be Seinfeld. That's Jerry.
Well, that was, on top of that.
But he and Michael Richards were up for the role of Kramer. And Larry David told our friend Larry, if he had been, Kramer, imagine that he probably wouldn't be on our show every once in a while.
They picked the wrong Kramer, as far as I'm concerned.
He said he would have done it totally differently. And I said, yeah, sure, of course you would have. But maybe you would have. I don't know. Oh, boy, you look tired. Now you're making me tired. Mitch is in the fetal position back there. He's taking a nap. Everybody's tired today. I guess we'll all just go home and take a nap. You got anything else to add before you hit that pillow that I'm bringing in from my car?
Well, the coffee place that we were broadcasting live from this morning was New Orleans themed. And that means that they had beignets for days. And I was wondering if they could have made a beignet as big as a pillow. Just put your little head on that powdered sugar, little pillowy packet of dough, and just drift off into dreamland, and then you wake up and your pillow's gone. You're like, oh no, I ate it while I was asleep.
Ate it. You
choke on powdered sugar in your sleep.
Yeah, and that's the thing, by the way. I think there have been a lot of really unfortunate deaths due to powdered sugar, like choking to death on it. And you can't do the Heimlich with powdered sugar, by the way. It just comes out as a big cloud of powdered sugar. Mm-hmm. Well, get some sleep, my friend. You're starting to make me a little worried. Well, not really, but I care about you. Anything you'd like to add?
No, there's nothing I need to add. Oh, the picture. The picture we're going to take.
Picture,
My girl said she has this fantasy of seeing us in a picture splitting a milkshake. And, there's a milkshake place right across the street.
Are we like wearing clothes in this? Because you say it's her fantasy. Your girl has a fantasy of us taking a picture with a milkshake. I can only imagine what this involves.
Well, I know that we will need at least one straw where I'll be on one end and you're on the other, Lady in the Tramp style. But maybe we'll get two straws, two little bendy straws sticking out the top. And you're not into sweets, so we're going to have to fill this milkshake with
pretzels.
I don't know, spinach, kale, something.
Well, I don't like that.
Make
yeah. You know what?
Protein shake.
I'll just suck on my pen.
That'll work as well.
Oh, it'll be a great picture. I can't wait. Well, I can't wait till I see it. I can't wait till we all come back for the next show, if there is one. I think there will be. But in the meantime, I'm Todd Schowalter with The Right Mind Show. And like I always say, if you don't have a right mind, you don't have a mind at all. Till next time,
bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to The Right Mind Show with Todd Schowalter. To find out about all things Todd, go to StudioTodd.com. We will see you next Saturday night at 5 p.m. right here on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, and always streaming online at NewsTalkSTL.com.